welcome everyone. Welcome to our Partner Spotlight Series. It's week 5, and we're excited today to have our partner Manhattan Associates on. The last 4 weeks, we have heard from different partners, gotten different perspectives on how technology is being used to build more resilient supply chains. And today we are going to hear from Gregg Lanyard, who is the Director of Logistics and Transportation Strategy at Manhattan Associates. And Gregg's going to give us his insights, and he's also going to take your questions. So as a reminder, we are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Zoom Live, so we will take your questions as they come. And let me just say, welcome, Gregg, to our Partner Spotlight Series.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Awesome, and we're glad you took time to join us. Just for our audience, real quick, let me just remind you that this is a continuing education series that we've been running since May, and it's part of our out-of-office hours. But this session we've been doing is specifically about our partners. We're putting the spotlight on our partners and the solutions that they have from a technology standpoint to help their customers build more resilient supply chains. And obviously, Manhattan is a great partner of Project 44. And so we're looking forward to hearing Gregg's comments and his insights here in just a second. Again, please post your questions, and we look forward to kicking this off. So, Gregg, first thing I do with every partner that I bring on is, I put you in the hot seat here a little bit. And just to talk about how we know each other, maybe things in common. You and I have known each other for several years, worked together in the past. And then one of the things that, our common bond that we always joke with each other about is college football.
For sure.
Yeah. And my understanding today, I was going to make you an honorary Tennessee fan because my understanding was that the Big Ten wasn't going to play football. But then there was just some news today that they are. So I know you got to be excited about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Thomas. Hot off the press. We will be playing in a couple weeks, which is good. I probably would have taken you up on that offer if it wasn't. So.
Well, one thing I will note, I went back and looked, and Penn State owns Tennessee from a standpoint of the last times we've played. So that'll be the only time I will ever admit that. But this is being recorded as well.
Just happy to see some football.
Yeah, exactly. So, Gregg, you've been in the supply chain ecosystem in various roles for several years. Maybe just give us a quick background, what your history with supply chain.
Sure. So, I'm probably one of those few people that can say that they're still doing what they learned in school, and I really never left. So I studied supply chain at Penn State many, many years ago. And then I've, really been in the industry now for 25 years post the schooling. And I started implementing TMS, back in the mid 90s, did that for several years. I moved on to a solutions or product management role shortly after that. And really, I've been doing that type of product management work for a variety of different enterprise software, vendors for the last 25 years, and all the big names that are out there.
Yeah, so that's great, and it's great to hear. You have a different background from a standpoint of looking at the TMS solutions, and then my understanding is, you're at Manhattan and you're helping drive that strategy specific to the TMS application. So you're working with customers, you're understanding what customers need, and this is a perfect time to bring you on because we're focusing on how technology builds more resilient supply chains, and with the pandemic going on, there's a lot of different needs. So we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on these questions that we have. So
sounds good.
That's great. All right, so let's just jump into it. Before we do that, let me just check the comments real quick. I like to make sure I'm not leaving anyone out. All right, so far so good. All right, so here we go. First question. with the pandemic, we saw many companies exposed with supply chain issues and now looking to use technology to build more resilient supply chains. So which technology solutions and products are Manhattan's customers buying and implementing? Maybe you can give us some examples. I know you're heavily focused on the TMS, but would love to hear some examples and how customers are utilizing the TMS.
Yeah, sure, Thomas. So, I think I probably want to start by saying that, resiliency, which is the theme here of your sessions, is an interesting topic because it's really not a new requirement for us. Those of us that have been in the supply chain software space for a long time, we've really been providing software that's been made to adapt and to scale, to these types of changes for a long time now, right? But the good news is it's always expanded, it's always gotten better, and now we're able to do things to support some of these different types of needs that are happening. Like I said, I've been in the software industry for 25 years. I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen a lot of depth and breadth of solutions, specifically in the TMS space over these years. And really, the pandemic is just another example of why supply chain software is so mission critical, right? So, as noted, I manage our TMS solution. It's one of the key areas that we focus on at Manhattan, and it's taken center stage with everything that's happening. And one of the specific areas of transportation that's taken that center stage is transportation modeling. So we're seeing a lot of interest and a lot of need and a lot of planner time be converted over to this exercise as opposed to some of the other operational daily planning and execution activities. Just as an example, so folks understand what transportation modeling is. So, we have several food distribution, grocery, and retail customers that have obviously had to pivot, right, a lot over the last 8 months.
Oh, yeah.
They've needed to simulate, they've needed to optimize due to all the different changes that we're seeing, and those are changes to demand. They're assessing product availability from vendors, they're altering their store hours, and they're even, changing their daily delivery schedule. So when you think about, static routes, dynamic routes, the transportation side of that equation, modeling, is an area that people are focusing on because it allows them to test alternate scenarios, and it allows them to understand the cost and the service implications of the changes that are happening. We're also seeing increasing expectations for an integrated supply chain. So, we feel we're pretty well positioned to handle that need. But with all of these things like the pandemic that are happening, anything that can be done to streamline and break down, the silos across transportation and warehouse and labor and yard, all of these things are what people are looking for, and that's where people are asking us to help solve problems.
Great. And one of the things I was going to also note is that you guys, when I look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant for TMS, right, you guys are moving up, and Gartner's taking notice, which means a lot of the industry is taking notice, and you guys are putting out a great TMS. So congratulations on that, because you've made a lot of strides there.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's definitely been a business unit effort from product to sales to services and across the board. So
yeah. And then the other thing I'll note for our European friends, because we don't want to leave them out, you guys, have European customers that are using the TMS as well. And I think you're beginning to see a lot more adoption over in the EU as well, right?
We are. We've recently really expanded our focus over there and in some of the other regions of the globe as well.
Yeah, awesome. So as a little bit follow on to the first question, and you kind of hit on it, you already touched on it, but maybe we can go just a little bit deeper. As a result of the pandemic, and again, are you seeing specific industries adopting supply chain solutions faster? And in this case, TMS. Are you seeing an industry that's adopting that more now than they were before, or is it still, would you say, the same?
Yeah, so we definitely service a lot of different industries, more than just those that I mentioned.
Sure.
Manufacturing, consumer goods, are definitely expansion areas for us as well. But I mentioned retail grocery distribution. We have grocery customers that are seeing 150%, 250% increases in volume, right, over the past several months.
Sure.
And as you can imagine, that leads to a lot of logistical changes, right, to both the optimization, the planning side, the execution side. So it's really across industry. If there's a call out, I'd probably state that there's growth in the mid-sized business space more so across the industries, as we continue to see more opportunities with companies that are sort of tier 2, tier 3 with regards to revenues and transportation spends. So that door has now been open. It's been open for a couple of years, obviously, but when things like the pandemic hit, I think everybody's looking for ways to improve their efficiencies and optimize better. So really more so than specific industries, I'd say that market is really now looking for solutions to help.
Yeah, that's great. And you're right. I mean, right now, I can't imagine just being a transportation planner. But, you got to have the right tools. And obviously, you guys have a great TMS for that. We do have one question here. And this is kind of a broad question, so answer it however you want. But how exactly is Manhattan helping to streamline transportation execution and break down the silos?
Sure. So, I alluded to the fact that we have many different solutions, in our pocket at Manhattan. So we, as part of our product management organization, we are consistently working together across those silos, right? We've historically had a warehouse management system, a transportation management system, omni solutions for point of sale and in-store solutions, labor management and inventory management, right? So the historic path has always been integration and how do we integrate, but we're really working together now with our customers and internally to look at how, what data is shared, what processes could be shared, what information could we share to help improve processes across those different silos. So generic question, a bit of a generic answer. If I had more time, I'd probably go into more detail, but we'll leave it there for now.
No, I think that's great because, I mean, Manhattan, when you first used to think of Manhattan Associates, you thought of the WMS.
That's right.
And you guys are making great advancements on the TMS. And now it's that integrated solution that allows a customer to be able to buy, a full solution and be able to have that data resonate across the entire organization. So my opinion is that's a huge value for customers that are out there. Now, my opinion is just a small one, but I think that's, it's a pretty cool thing. All right, let's see. Here's another question. All right. This is from one of our attendees from Zoom, so I can't see this one. This one's being sent to me. What advice do you have for implementing new supply chain technology? And what would you say about how the team should be set up for success? So put on your hat because I know you used to implement as well back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think the biggest thing that I like to state to leave with folks is that, my advice for implementing is you have to realize that, your implementation, whether it be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it might be, your systems are being configured based on the rules of today, your supply chain of today. And, the days and the weeks after you go live, your supply chain has changed, right? So you have to, monitor and measure and maintain your system with that being the fact. And otherwise you're not optimizing every day, right? So there's just this need for, staying ahead of the game. And that is one of the biggest things that I've seen over the course of, a couple decades as to what makes the difference between success and failure, especially certainly in a TMS implementation.
Yeah, perfect. Great call out. So the third question that I have for you, and in my series of questions that I ask everyone, so right now the need for shipment visibility and inventory visibility throughout the supply chain is huge, right? I mean, pandemic exposed a lot of customers because they didn't have visibility or the right data, or really understanding where their goods were, or quite frankly the data flowing to the right systems. And I think that's one of the biggest bottlenecks right there.
Yeah.
How are Manhattan's customers using visibility to build more resilient supply chains? So maybe you give a few examples there.
Yeah, and kind of before I jump into that, let's delve into that question, right? So,
Sure.
you can ask, like, why is that the case? Like, why is there an increased need for visibility, right? And the answer is really because of what this change is resulting in. And if you think about things that are important to transportation management, like transit times, traffic, and how long it takes to get from point A to point B, dwell times at facilities, and even the routes that we're taking for our different shipments. All of these things have now been altered in some way, right? And you take the pandemic as an example. There's less cars on the road. There's more processes and less touch, things that are happening at facilities. So all of these changes have increased the need for better visibility. And it's really simply because companies aren't running under the same constraints or the historic data and information that they have in the past. So it's a new normal, right? As
Right.
we say. So, our joint customers, are facing that challenge, and they're using real-time data, from Project 44 to improve their operations. And that's planning, from that perspective, to reevaluate those transit times and dwell times, because you're giving us that good information. On the execution side, being able to recalculate and understand ETAs at stores or customers based on what's happening out on the out on the road. These are things, that visibility is, at the forefront, because it's leading to better data. And that better data can then be worked into different exercises like strategic modeling, like I talked about. Plus we're obviously able to provide better analytics by using that data. So, Project 44 as a content provider, right? You guys are helping the overall process with our, TMS to improve customer operations.
Yeah, great call out. And that's the one thing I was going to say is, it's one thing to be where the visibility really counts is, during the execution phase, right? Because planning, you throw the plan, you go into execution. We all know what happens when in execution, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where things can go bad and happen, and you need visibility. But then you want to take those data sets, and you nailed it right there, talking about, analytics and modeling. One thing I will say, and I've been joking with all the other people that came on, 2020 is going to be one of those years for the data set. You'll throw it out because you'll say, hey, over the last 5 years, let's don't count 2020 into our modeling set. But
right.
But who knows, right? It depends on how long this thing goes. But I think the need now for visibility and providing the TMS better data to make better outcomes or better decisions for companies is more critical now than ever. And I think it's because of just what you said, right? Things are shifting daily. And you called out with some of the industries, with grocery and retail, and, tomorrow's not going to look like what today is. And, it depends on how many people, buy online, and are we going to see a run on flour or toilet paper? What's the next big run, So it's that need for data, but good data across the organization. And again, I'm going to harp back and tout you guys for the standpoint of having your TMS and your WMS linked provides an organization the ability to have that, to understand, what's planned, what the shipments are either coming inbound to the DC or going outbound. And if you have the visibility, then you can help schedule your labor force. You can make better decisions. And again, you don't need, 3 or 4 different solutions. You've got that one integrated solution. So
That's right.
I think there's a lot of value there for sure. And again, we appreciate you guys being our partner, and, the joint customers that we have. So it's great. So thanks.
Same.
Yeah. Let me check the comments, because we've got one more question to go through. All right. Um, so we've talked about, what's going on, what you're seeing from the customers, about visibility. But what I'd like to know is, with your history in supply chain, and then you're also out there talking to customers, you're also looking at the greater picture to help drive the strategy for Manhattan. What are some of the thoughts you have on seeing what's going on in the industry and what technology trends you think will benefit the supply chain ecosystem? So I'd love to hear what you think on that.
Yeah, so some of probably the two or three hot examples of what's been happening over the last couple of months, and conversations I've been having in terms of the trends. People are starting to pay more attention to and trying to find solutions to the increasing demand for touchless and paperless processes. So I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, because with or without a pandemic, those are going to help provide efficiencies, right, in our supply chain. Sure. And like you mentioned, whether it's in the yard or at the gate, or driver and dispatch functions, if we can speed up those bottlenecks that are the typical bottlenecks along the way of a route, then we're going to be in a better spot, and we'll be able to improve operations. I think from a TMS specific perspective, we're seeing a few different things, and are focusing on a couple different things that are, I think, gonna lead us to down the investment in the roadmap path. And there's probably three that I can mention. One is around improving collaboration and connectivity. Okay. So it starts with partnerships like ours, to help speed up, onboarding and connections and transactions and data, like we talked about, through to things like digital freight matching, and really all the way to mobile solutions, because we know we're not going to all of a sudden wake up tomorrow and pick up our phone less than we already pick it up today, right? There's going to be more and more demand and needs for mobile solutions, and new technology just keeps getting, better and better. So if there's easier and better ways to collaborate and connect, that's something that we're going to continue to focus on. I'd say the second is really around, the intelligence side, which we've hit on, but turning intelligence into actionable intelligence and using the mass amounts of data to make more operational decisions. That certainly includes, using advanced algorithms and machine learning, which we're certainly starting to hear a lot about. I still think that's very, very early in its life cycle. There's some obvious, examples of where that fits into TMS out there, but, we want to, in a perfect world, I'd build a TMS that, fine tunes itself, right, with its parameters and its configurations based on the data that's coming in. And that's a long-term goal. And then probably the third area is, again, we hit on it in the question asked around unified logistics. And again, there's so much more to be done. As we noted, yes, we have, integrated single platform solutions at Manhattan, but, there's more to be done from a user experience perspective, from a data sharing perspective, and from a process perspective. So these are the areas that I think are, the trends that you'll start to hear and see more of as we move forward as a company, and certainly, that we're starting to have conversations with, customers and prospects about.
Great. That's great. And one of the other things I'll note that, you guys made a big investment in cloud deployments with TMS, and the benefits of that obviously are much faster ROI for customers, and continued just faster innovation. Customers can adopt the cloud, so much easier. And I think the other thing, it allows, other tiers of customers to be able to utilize the solution as well and get benefits. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good. Let me check the comments. We got one more, I think. All right. Okay, so this one, I don't know. somebody says, hey, which new Manhattan technology are you most excited about? And I'm going to say it's probably the TMS side because he owns that.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, that's what I say. You don't stay in the same industry doing the same thing for 30 years if there's not always new and exciting, things happening in the space and the industry. And this has been a very interesting, challenging, exciting time for TMS. There's so much, new technology from, the innovations that are coming out through partners like yourself to just the technology that's out there that gives us better data and helps us bring more value to customers. So that's my excitement. It's, what's next, so we can take advantage of it, we can partner, we can build, and we can bring more value. And that's, to sum that up, that's why I've been in this space for so long, because I enjoy seeing, our solutions help companies get better. And I don't think that's going to end, soon. There's always going to be new stuff to build and take advantage of. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of your role, right? You get to interact with customers and find out, what is it they need to help drive the strategy. And also, obviously, you're looking at a lot of other factors as well, but that's the cool part. The only other thing I'll say is, I've attended your user conference last year in, I think we were in Arizona. And, you guys do a great job of education and putting on a user conference this year. Obviously, we had to go more different with virtual. I'm hoping that we get to see each other next year at another user conference, because it's been a while since I've seen you face to face, obviously.
Absolutely. It's been since March since I've been on a plane. Probably you're around that same boat. So
yeah, that's the other thing I usually add is, how's that pandemic impacted you from a business standpoint? And you're probably doing exactly what we've all been doing, using Zoom and Teams and any other platform right there from your office.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I've been working aside from the travels that we do. I've worked from home when I'm not traveling for about 14 years. So now everybody who always questioned how could I work from home, I think everybody understands it now.
Exactly.
There's a lot of people who enjoy it and may not ever want to go back to an office. So
yeah, exactly. Let's see, we got one more question. So, considering the reputation of Manhattan with constant focus on improving customer service and business processes, what's the future of logistics, like usage of drones to reduce fuel cost or so on? So now you got to put on your hat, and you got to tell us what you think about the future of logistics.
Sure. No, it's always a good question. Listen, whether it's autonomous trucks, which we know are already out there, but not in the masses,
right.
Drones, which are now certified, and being used, again, not in the masses. I think these things take time. I think there's a lot of, regulation that'll have to be passed for a lot of these things to hit the mainstream. I'm certainly, bullish on both of those areas in the future, but do I think it's 2 years out? No, I think it'll be, several years before we see some of that impact, the business. Now, the autonomous trucks and the driver situation and, can that help in certain areas? I think yes. I think you'll see certain routes and certain capabilities that do hit the market sooner than others. You're not going to have a truck moving through the cities and without a driver in it and this and that, just for obvious reasons. But the long haul portions and things like that might be where it starts. Those are probably the two big ones that most folks are talking about. Blockchain, again, is it being used today? Yes, in certain industries, in certain areas around the supply chain, but will it hit mainstream in the next 2 years? I don't think so, not yet. I think, some of those bigger ones that we've been starting to talk about are still, on the cusp, but a couple years away.
Yeah, and the only thing, and I'll chime in here a little bit on that too. The one thing I would say is I think we'll see continued use of electric vehicles in supply chain, right?
Yep.
Specifically around the ports, maybe to help with just pollution and, maybe making the 50 or 60-mile deliveries of containers coming out of like Long Beach and places like that. I think we'll continue to see innovation there. And so, yeah, that's just kind of my thought just to jump on the back of what you said. And so, Gregg, we are at the end of this. 30 minutes goes by really quick.
Sure.
This was great. I appreciate your insights. It's great to hear some of the, the new things that you guys are doing around the TMS, how you're helping your customers, specifically around some of the industries, the examples you gave. And again, I can't say thanks enough for just the continued collaboration that you have with us from a partnership standpoint. So thanks again for that. And let me just remind our audience. So next Wednesday, we'll have the partner spotlight go on another partner, and this time we're going to shift gears because we're going to talk about how we actually implement technology during a pandemic. So that's going to be interesting. We've heard, from our other partners about the technology and about the solutions, and now we're going to hear from what's going on in the trenches, specifically with an SI partner who's implementing logistics and supply chain technology. So tune in next Wednesday, and we look forward to that. But Gregg, thanks again for coming on. Thanks for sharing your insights and, what you guys are doing at Manhattan, and continue, keep it up, man. Continue the good work.
Appreciate the time and the opportunity, Thomas. Always good talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder for everyone, it's Truck Driver Appreciation Week. And, we all, everything we've got at some point in time traveled on a truck. So make sure that we thank our truckers and the truck driving community and our partners. So with that said, everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thank you.